This is a road, and for most people, a road like this is used to get from A to B. But I think they're missing the point. Because in the right car, you can turn a regular 2-lane blacktop into your own personal asphalt playground. But the right car would have to be something special, something powerful, something made by the most recognizable brand on Earth.
Now this is a Ferrari. And if you can afford it, I highly recommend you get one.
But that is a big if, because the most desirable Ferraris, like this 488 Pista, cost nearly $500,000 when it was new. And if you wanted to buy one today, you'd pay considerably more than that.
Now Ferraris are desirable, they're beautiful, and they're expensive. And it goes without saying that finding a cheap Ferrari is almost impossible. Almost.
Welcome everyone to Texas, the land of big cows, big steaks, and big trucks. The perfect place for AutoTempest to give us their biggest challenge yet, to find and buy Ferraris for the same price as a Toyota Camry. They then told us to bring our bargain prancing horses to a remote field near Dallas so we can show each other what we'd bought. And as usual, whew, my car was perfect.
Welcome to the cheapest Ferrari in the country. AutoTempest challenged us to find a Ferrari for the price of a Toyota Camry, and I think I did a really, really good job. This is a 1978 Ferrari 308 GTB. It has a V8 in the back and it looks fantastic. This is exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for a cheap Ferrari. Now, I happen to know that this is the cheapest Ferrari in the country. What?
Hello, Magnum.
What's going on here?
A 1994 Ferrari 456 GT. And look inside.
You got a manual? Okay. So I know that this is the cheapest Ferrari in the country.
Yes.
And you know that because you actually found this car for me.
Yes.
Woo! She moves. Nothing but the finest.
So after I bought this, that popped up for sale in my backyard.
Well, thank you very much. I clearly got the better deal. Dude,
Yes.
I don't think this is fair at all.
It's less than a Camry. Well, right at the tippy top. You established the rules in Car Trek 1. I am 100% sure that you have cheated.
Nobody's buying the base model. This was $69,000, which is exactly what somebody would pay for a C8 Corvette.
You cheated. That was definitely cheap. Did you fix anything on it?
No.
Do you have headlights?
No.
Turn signals?
No.
A heater?
Do we need those?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh no.
Shenanigans. No. This is bad.
No.
What?
Guys, they said Ferraris for the price of a Camry, not Ferraris that would lose to a Camry.
This costs the same as 10 Camrys.
Right,
No.
that's a six-figure plus car. Last time I checked, a Camry is not that.
$40,000. That's a Camry with a couple of options.
It's not $40,000. There's
Yes,
no
yes,
way.
it was.
Universe is that 40 grand?
Well, you remember in December when Tyler bought what he claimed was the cheapest Lamborghini Diablo in the world?
Oh my goodness. So this is a 97 Lamborghini Diablo VT Roadster. There's only like 200 of these in existence. I'm driving a Diablo home.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Well, on that same day, I also bought a silver 1997 Lamborghini Diablo VT Roadster, but I paid $78,000, which I assume is quite less than you paid.
Yes.
And I decided when I saw this for sale that I would enjoy it more, so I traded that and they gave me $38,000 back.
Ed, that's not
40,000?
how this works.
Who are you, the IRS?
No. Oh my God.
So how much was this thing like advertised for?
Well, it was advertised for $100,000, but I didn't pay that.
What did you pay for this car?
$40,000.
No.
No. How much cash money did you pay for this
the
car?
dealer thought it was $80,000.
So it's $80,000.
Well,
Spidey sense is tingling because it's Ed.
yes. In addition to my ability to make it cheaper, it made itself cheaper by finding some water.
Okay, so flood car.
Yeah.
That cost you $80,000.
I know, but it was a long ago flood.
And this is not cheating?
No. This is totally within the spirit of what AutoTempest intended, I believe.
This thing has all of the carbon fiber. All of it.
Yes, it was a 338 sticker plus the $35,000 HGTE add-on.
Those wheels are Ferrari?
OEM, yes. Yeah, an upgrade, in fact.
Hideous, yes.
But look at this.
Look at it, yes.
I see how pretty the paint is, which must mean that everything underneath was so sorted out that you had plenty of time to detail it.
No, that's not what happened. This is a 78 308 GTB, and I actually followed the rules on this and didn't use some weird financial trickery like some people. $30,000. And it's clean title, 21,000 miles, and it has a V8 in the right area of the car, right here, okay? Not like you have a Mustang, basically, okay? That's a front engine rear drive car. This is what a Ferrari is supposed to be.
I think there are plenty of legendary front-engined V12 cars that say that Tyler and I are totally justified in saying that these are very, very good examples of Ferraris.
That is not true, and none of those legendary cars are here right now. How much did you pay for your car?
$45,000.
45 grand.
But only 10,000 kilometers on it, and it is mint. It is a museum piece of a car.
Kilometers, so you have brought this car in from
Dubai, originally Japan. So it was a Japanese spec.
Oh, it's a stick.
It's a manual, gated manual.
Which forgives all sins. There's some paint work here, buddy.
Oh.
It had a little impact, but it's clean Carfax because it's spent its whole life in Japan. There's no Japan Carfax.
This is not a Camry, that's not a Camry. This is Camry money.
Freddie, this is the reason people are scared to own pre-owned Ferraris. They're catastrophically expensive and everything breaks.
Said the flood car owner?
It's fine.
I figured you would have fixed everything by now because you are the warranty, but you didn't even do that, and you didn't grow out your mustache either. I guess for the next week.
Hold on.
Start growing.
I'm getting a text.
Tom Selleck.
All right, a text from AutoTempest. We never thought we'd say this, but thank you, Freddie, for following the rules.
Yes.
Clearly you win this round, but we know the viewers are clamoring with comments saying cheap Ferraris aren't cheap when they break. They're correct, so it's time to see just how broken your cars are. Head to this address to receive some unfriendly news from a very friendly face.
Freddie, ouch. Ed, you're disqualified. I have a mint 10,000 kilometer showpiece.
You're gonna see how manly. This is a man's car.
Okay.
That's what it was in Family Vacation, right?
Yep.
We saddled up our clearance rack Italian stallions and headed towards what I knew would be my easiest inspection ever. Ed's love of cars with sketchy history meant he was surely in for a rude awakening, and I was honestly surprised that Freddy's car was running at all. But as this was our first drive together, we all decided to open them up and see what they could do. Well, two of us did at least.
So when it comes to buying cheap Ferraris, this 308 GTB is not only the perfect choice, frankly, it's your only choice. Ferrari prices have increased so much over the years, especially vintage Ferrari prices, that it's practically impossible to find anything on a budget, but I did it. This is my favorite kind of car because it's a project. It needs a little bit of work. All right, needs a lot of bit of work. Everything feels like you have to sort of manhandle it. Nothing is automatic, everything is manual. You don't have any traction control, any driver aids. There's switches here that I have no idea what they do. Everything electronic on the dashboard, which is custom made by the way, does not work. The air conditioning does not work. It's getting quite warm. Now, what I would usually do is roll the window down, but unfortunately, those don't work. It is completely locked up on both sides. So I'm basically trapped in this car. And this is one of those cars you can absolutely have a blast at the speed limit, because honestly, it's not much faster than that. But it doesn't matter that this car can get its doors blown off by an average minivan. It's a Ferrari. It sounds great, it looks great, it's so much fun to drive. Ferraris are supposed to be fiery and passionate, and this one definitely is. In fact, this car was the only car out of R3 that was around when Enzo Ferrari, the father of the company, was still alive. And I think he gave this car his seal of approval. He probably didn't, but whatever.
Oh yeah, buying this 456 GT was such a great decision. And the reason why I went to all the trouble and the expense and months wait to get this thing from Dubai is because of this. The gated shifter, 436 horsepower V12, 6-speed gated manual transmission, and a comfortable 4-seat grand touring car that you can haul the family in. This is an amazing value for the price of a fully loaded Camry with every button and option accessory pushed in the undercoating, the pinstriping, everything. But I did spend a little bit more to get it here, the shipping, the import duties, the taxes. But Ed kind of established in Car Trek 1 the Ed Bullion rule that it doesn't matter what you spend after you purchase it, it matters the purchase price. So I'm still not cheating, right? Right? Now the 456 is one of the last Ferraris left that I still feel like is kind of undervalued. Some people say that's because of the very conservative styling on this car. I think it's absolutely beautiful, this Pininfarina styled body, which they built as sort of the answer to the Ferrari Testarossa and the Ferrari 348 that people said looked too of their time. They looked too 80s, they looked too wild and crazy, and they weren't going to age well. With the 456, they were looking towards the future with the styling, and I think they nailed it. Pretty much every car had this swoopy, soft shape in the 90s and 2000s. I've always dreamed of owning one of these cars because it seems to me like the perfect Ferrari, and it's one of those instances where you meet their heroes and they are just as cool in person, just like Ed Bullion.
Now, when you save up some money and you finally buy your dream Ferrari, a lot of people might tell you that your ship has come in, but that could never be more the case than with this car right here. Now, of course, you might be like my land-loving co-presenters, and flood cars and salvage cars might not be your thing, but I have to say they totally float my boat. So let's not let this car's soggy past water down how utterly brilliant it actually is. It has a 6-liter naturally aspirated V12 that it happens to share with the legendary Ferrari Enzo. And when the car was released, Ferrari actually tried to pretend that it wasn't as fast as an Enzo. In fact, they lied, saying that its 0 to 60 time was 3.7 seconds, when in fact all of the magazines tested it to be 3.3, the same as a Ferrari Enzo. So obviously Ferrari didn't want it to kind of tarnish the reputation of its legendary hypercar, but they probably could have sold infinitely more of these things if they had just been honest about how fast it is. Of course, it's detuned a little bit. It has 612 horsepower rather than the Enzo's 660, and it only revs to 8,400 RPM. But who cares? This is the comfy Ferrari Enzo that you can buy for 2 or 3% of what you would pay for a real Enzo. Now, when this car came out, its primary two competitors were the Lamborghini Murcielago LP640 and the Mercedes McLaren SLR. And I have both of those cars, and I love each of them, so I've always been intrigued by the 599, and so I'm really excited to be in the car this week. Of course, when you introduce a Ferrari or any car to the Life Aquatic, it doesn't come out the same way it went in, and there are some issues that I believe could be attributed to its time spent submerged. I've got an airbag light on, my screen as part of my gauges that would tell me my odometer, my fuel gauge, my coolant temp gauge, my oil temp gauge, any errors that were to come up that wouldn't result in a light. That's all dark. It's on. If I shine a flashlight on it, I can almost read it, but it's of no use to me in driving. Also, there's a weird creak from the front right suspension, and the doors don't exactly work right. Sometimes the passenger door resists unlatching, and the driver's door, when you close it, the window glass hitting the frame above sounds terrible. It's like your grandmother saying intercourse. It's just totally, totally wrong. It's not perfect, but if I'm honest, I don't know that I would fix any of this stuff. I would just go drive the car. And I might have spent more than I was supposed to on this car, but I just wanted to buy something that I actually wanted to own. And I don't honestly think there's a lot of people sitting in the audience that have a 456 or a 308 as their dream Ferrari. But I think if you were gonna spend $80,000, $100,000, whatever you want, maybe a little more if you require having a clean title, that you couldn't do any better than a car like this. After moseying through the sprawling metropolis of Dallas, AutoTempest brought us to Collins Brothers Jeep, a place that looked less like a dealership and more like an automotive graveyard. If I was a betting man, I'd say they weren't very confident in our choices of cars.
Well, hoopties. Lots of hoopties. How you doing there, Freddy?
I'm all right.
You got some...
I gotta turn the fan off and disconnect the battery, otherwise the battery dies.
I never saw Magnum PI have to do this.
No, never. Now just drop the positive lead in that water. Look at this. Wow.
Looks like Tavarish's garage, kinda.
Very much, yes.
A lot of broken stuff.
Ooh, look at this.
It's an old Jag.
No, not just any old Jag. In 1979, this car won the final running of the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. Dave Hines and Dave Yarbrough drove it New York to LA in 32 hours and 51 minutes.
Wow. And you beat them in a used Mercedes?
Not just them. In fact, Richard Rawlings and Dennis Collins drove that Ferrari 550 Maranello. In 2007, they did 31 hours and 59 minutes. And so that is the time that I beat, along with Alex Roy and Dave Maher's time in my CL55.
He had that holstered, just like right
Not
there.
exactly.
Right.
I have tried to buy this specific Jaguar from Dennis several times. I always expected that they would restore it on the show, but I guess they didn't. It's still right here in pretty much exactly the shape they pulled it out of the junkyard.
Yeah, it needs a little work.
A bit.
This is not a shopping trip for Ed. We are here for a reason.
That is correct. AutoTempest is the best way to search for a used car online, and we have found three, I think, of the absolute best we could have. But I know I didn't do much of an inspection of my car before I bought it, and so I would imagine that that is exactly why we are here, so that someone much more qualified than us can do so.
Yeah, usually the wizard pops up
Wizard.
right around now.
Yes.
And
Poofs in.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars. He could show up in any one of them.
Wizard! 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 There he is.
AutoTempest never ceases to amaze me, summoning me into a storage container.
How you doing,
Welcome.
man?
What's going on? So, I've never seen so many Jeeps in my life. Is that the theme this time, Jeeps?
No, we're at Collins Brothers Jeep, but we have brought Ferraris.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Jeeps.
No.
Not at all, but you're here to tell us what's going to break.
You have cars to see.
Ferraris, indeed.
Shall I go first? You already are familiar with the car,
I
but
am.
there's some new things.
Go ahead and go get it, and we'll get started.
There we go.
There we go. Takes a while. Wizard!
What's going on?
Not much. Here, pop the hood, give it a little jiggle. The mighty V12.
Yes.
436 horsepower. But it wasn't running right when it got off the boat in Dubai. They have to drain all the fuel out of the tanks on the ship, and that messed up the fuel pumps, but you fixed them.
Yes, Kia Rondo pumps. I've done that in a few of these vehicles, and it works really well.
And then the brakes too. The brakes were stiff. You fixed it with a Chevy truck part, right?
Yeah, so that's Tavarish brakes, and the pressure sensor was bad. It's the identical part that's used on Hydro Boost on Chevy trucks.
You're a wizard. I've already spent some money with you, but since then it's been very good. No complaints so far other than a really long cranking time, like 10 seconds of cranking before this thing fires.
That sounds like something, it could be a check valve. After it sets for a while, fuel pressure bleeds back into the tank, and you have to build that back up to crank it and start it again. It's probably a very simple fix.
Okay, well, probably nothing else. It's mint.
It's mint.
It's mint.
Well, let's get this thing up in the air on the lift and see just how mint that it really is.
Well, Wizard, we're going to do a tour of Ferrari history today. 3 decades of Ferraris, very, very different, but this one's definitely the nicest.
Well, I know you think it's mint,
Yes.
but the last time I worked on it, there was a few things that were very questionable.
And you didn't want to tell me?
No, not yet. I wanted to reveal it to you here.
All right, like what?
Well, one of the things that I found was there's a gasket here that's leaking oil,
Yeah?
and instead of replacing the gasket like they should have, they just blow up silicone over it.
Oh, man.
There's also some copper washers that are leaking
Yeah.
right here. The oil drain pan, there's a fitting here that's leaking, and also the oil pressure sending unit, there's a copper washer leaking there. But that's just from age, just from setting. It sets for so long, and now we're driving it and getting it warmed up and everything, and oil circulating, and it's starting to show its leaks.
Charming. So anything else you notice that's not Concours quality?
Yes, actually underneath this heat shield here, there was some crank sensor wiring that had been attempted to be repaired. And they did a really bad job. It wasn't even turning on the fuel pumps because the wiring repair was so bad.
Charming. Okay, well, nothing else, right?
No, nothing else. It's actually in very good shape
Okay,
otherwise.
well, then let's just walk through just to show there's no favoritism, like I'm cheating or something. Just there's nothing else, but
Everything this way back is very clean and very good shape. It
yes.
really is kind of mint back here.
yeah, and it's a proper sporty GT with the rear-mounted trans. It's got a 51-49 weight distribution, and you have active aerodynamics. You have a spoiler here that deploys at speed on the bottom. You never think there's a bottom spoiler on a car, but this one has it.
And this one works.
It's mint.
It's mint.
Mint. The other two, Wizard, not so mint. You'll have plenty to look at. One went for a little swim. The other one's just a turd. Yes, the other one's a turd. So good luck.
Tell you what, I'm ready for the next victim. Let's get it up here.
Good day, Wizard.
What's going on, Ed?
It is a beautiful day.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Thank you. I love Ferraris, especially in gray over red. I think it's the best color combination you could ever want.
Indeed. Well, don't tell my wife, but I could make love to this car.
Well, I won't tell her that, but I'd also rather you not. Let's just check it out.
Oh, I won't actually make love to it, but I'm saying I could.
Well, we're both very flattered by that. I think you'll find this car to be utter perfection.
Is there any history with the car at all?
No, it's ready for Pebble Beach.
I find that hard to believe coming from Ed Bolian.
Yeah, I will say that years ago, in 2014, a second owner of this car decided to wash it in a unique way.
Wash it?
Yes, yeah, so you or I might use a bucket and a hose or a pressure washer. He decided to use the accumulated effects of a rainstorm.
So what you're saying is a flood car?
Well, several states have said that about the car, but I think it's just the greatest thing you could buy.
Let's get this thing on the lift and see if it's just as good as you said it is.
I'm sure it will be.
All right.
Let's see what we can see under here.
Limited, I suppose, due to the aerodynamic aids.
I can see through the aerodynamic slits, though.
Ah, yes.
There's some power steering accumulation here on the boot on the steering rack.
Watermelon flavored?
Strawberry, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That would make sense that it's been in a flood and it deteriorated the seals, and over time it's starting to leak.
Do I have to get a new one?
We wouldn't have to replace it. I could remove it and send it off to be rebuilt and reinstall it. That would be fine on that.
Okay.
Save a little money there.
Well, that would be nice.
Through here. Oh, I see some oil seepage here. It looks like the rear main seal is leaking in here.
Seeping seems acceptable.
Yeah, and you can see in the wind as it blows, it's collecting here on this exhaust mount. It's kind of oily there.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Don't taste that.
No, I'm not going to taste that.
And I suppose I should mention, in case you haven't noticed it, that the screen that's part of the gauge cluster is currently a bit dim.
Okay, in a situation like that, the thing that I would do is not replace the cluster, but I would send it off to be rebuilt.
Oh, rebuild it all. That sounds
I
great.
could take care of that and reinstall the same cluster.
So I don't have an odometer, a fuel gauge, a coolant temp gauge, an oil temp gauge, or any of the alerts that would have come through that screen. But the error lights, like a check engine light or anything like that, or as you may have noticed, an airbag light.
So I did check your airbag light, and what it says is the sensor is bad on the passenger seat.
Okay.
And the cost-effective solution for that is going to be just get a used seat, get it reupholstered to match this one, and you're probably looking at $4 to $5 grand to do that.
I have to replace the seat as the cost-effective solution?
That is.
Why can't you just replace the sensor?
Well, the trouble is trying to figure out which one it is and all the labor involved and tearing it all apart. You end up actually more expensive than just putting a used seat in.
What if you just told the computer that it didn't have airbags?
It's highly illegal.
Is it illegal everywhere?
Maybe not everywhere, but I wouldn't be interested in doing it.
It could be another vacation,
It could be.
like wizard shop in international waters.
International waters.
Yes.
It probably could be done in that way.
Well, however bad you think this car is, I can promise you that the next one will be far, far worse.
Well, it is Freddy's car, and that's par for the course.
Absolutely. Good luck.
I can't wait.
Oh, hold on.
What are you doing?
Just, look. It's fans run all the time and gotta take off the back. Never mind.
Okay.
This is my 1978 Ferrari 308 GTB, and now you're gonna see what's wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
What was that was going on under the front trunk?
It's a feature, not a bug. Okay, this car has some character. It's a character. You're gonna love the character
gonna love
of this
it?
car. Yes.
Well, let's get this thing on the lift and see what kind of character it has. But before we do, there's something special I got to do for this car.
All right.
What do you think?
Okay, so the car is in great shape, as you can clearly see, and
But what about this here?
this is a safety strap to tie the battery on because the battery holder is
The
not
battery
there.
hold down is missing.
Yeah, but it works. I mean, the battery's not going anywhere.
There's a couple of bolts or something missing to this chin spoiler.
So Ferrari is all about having light cars, you know, power to weight ratio, that sort of
Right.
thing. So sometimes the bolts are going to be missing because that's just weight reduction.
It might be weight reduction, but it could break under high speed as you get to flapping.
It's active aero.
Active aero.
Yeah, they have them on the new cars. They had them on the old cars too.
Yeah, I suppose. But now as we move to the business end of the car, there's a lot of oil coming out of this thing.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a little weepy, a little bit.
Looks like it's got some torn CV boots. They're like completely shredded. The bushings seem to be deteriorated on the control arms as well. They're pretty bad.
Yeah, but they're like $50. They're actually really, really cheap to buy.
What's going on here?
This is a zip tie, which was used to hold in bodywork and is no longer connected. Just pretend you didn't see that, you know?
Just put my hand over my eyes and...
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that. I see the studs where the AC compressor used to be, and there's some cut lines there.
Yeah, so this is an AC delete car. It wasn't a factory option. It was done afterwards, but
Right.
it makes the timing belts really easy to access.
I can see that.
Yeah, so it helps out mechanically, even though it really sort of needs AC.
It's like kind of like the death of 1,000 cuts.
yeah.
It's nothing majorly essentially wrong with this car. It's just a lot of little things, really.
Yeah, well, hopefully your estimate's not going to be too bad.
Let me go work the numbers, and we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, it's not. Just go easy. I mean,
Go
please.
easy.
Go
Okay.
easy, please.
Yep.
Please. Thank you. You think this is faster than my 308?
Yes.
If we pushed it, it would be.
289? Is it Highland Green?
I think it might be. It's a T5, not a real Mustang. It was delivered to South Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, it says right here on the edge.
Well, no wonder why I like it so much. Wizard!
What's going on, guys?
Hello, Wizard.
Cool car. but
Yes.
I have some numbers for you guys. And we're going to start with Ed.
Yes, easy.
Your 599 is beautiful, and I still would make love to it.
What?
But you have a lot of things wrong with it. It's going to be very expensive.
I'm sorry. Whoa.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Go fast.
Yeah.
Continue,
Okay.
Wizard.
All right,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Anyways, so you had an instrument cluster, a steering rack rebuild, you had the seat, the rear main seal. When everything gets tallied up, the number that we arrive at is $16,000.
Your instrument cluster doesn't work?
Only part of it. I got a tachometer.
Which part? All of it?
The screen doesn't give me all the messages.
That's all of it.
Well, it's a lot of it. We need to be careful about fuel range.
So you paid double the budget, basically. You cheated.
Yes.
$40,000.
And then $16,000 is broken on this 599 of yours.
This is a $100,000 car that was flooded.
Of no consequence. It will drive just perfectly. It needs none of that.
Oh, no, it won't.
All right, who's next?
The next person I have in line is Freddy.
Yes!
Yes!
Woo!
His has a lot of small things wrong with it. It's not like major catastrophe or anything large that has to be pulled apart. It's got lots of oil leaks, it's got lots of bushings, and a lot of little things that need to be taken care of.
Not a big deal.
If you had a shop do all that work, you're going to be looking at $14,000 to get that thing right.
Okay.
That is half of what your car's worth.
Yes, it is. But it's a DIY thing, you know? Like your car, you can't DIY that.
Well, when you say you would DIY it,
I would, yes.
is that the condition that you got it in, or have you been DIYing it to get it to that shape?
We don't need to talk about details right now, Ed, okay? The fact of the matter is, yes, I had to do a few things to that car to get it in running condition, and yes, it is leaking from the things I did. But it's less repair work than your car, so
You had it for 4 months and there's still that much broken on it after 4 months of you wrenching every day on it.
Yes, but I only started wrenching 3 days ago, so that's fine.
Well, that explains the toe strap and the zip ties and things under there. That kind of makes sense.
Duct tape, yeah.
That's his standard operating procedure.
That is not true.
Okay, so what about Fair
And
Tyler
lastly,
here?
for Tyler, Tyler actually came out on top on this one. $800.
$800? What does it need? The glove box
Goodbye.
latch tighten?
Tyler Weens.
It just needs some crush washers. It needs like one gasket.
Tyler Weens.
One little.
And it needs a check valve in the
tiny
fuel
gasket.
system.
Wait, is it going to catch him on fire?
I don't think it will catch on fire, no.
But what would I need to do to make it catch him on fire?
I'm gonna cut the timing belt.
Hey, the timing belt's already been done. It's new. It's all thoroughly
It doesn't
serviced.
matter. I'm gonna cut it anyway.
It's perfect. It's mint.
$800.
It's
don't
ready.
sabotage it. It's a beautiful car.
Tyler Weens.
Undesirable, crashed previously, painted all over.
I'm calling shenanigans. I don't care about your relationship. This is shenanigans, okay?
You had 4 months to get this thing prepared for the Wizard to look
I
at it.
started
You
working
failed.
on it 3 days
You had
ago.
4 months. It's your fault.
That's your fault. All right, well, thank you, Wizard. We're now going to go inside, speak to Dennis Collins to understand how much it would cost us for ongoing ownership and operation after our cars were, I suppose, as sorted as Tyler's is.
Sounds like a plan. I'll head on home then.
All right, we're headed in.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed, your keys
Ah, yes, thank
and
you.
your sunglasses. Actually, Ed Vision.
Oh, it makes everything look cheaper.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you so much for the hospitality. You have an awesome shop.
Hello.
See you.
And you have one of my favorite Ferraris, the 550 Maranello that you and Richard set the cannonball record in.
Yes, sir.
How long have you had it?
It's a 99. I bought it in 99. It's got about 42,000 miles on it. Very hard miles.
Goodness gracious. So we want to understand for each of the 3 cars that we've chosen what the long-term cost of ownership would be like. How many Ferraris have you owned?
Approximately 40.
Ooh, okay, so he can certainly speak to that. So obviously cost of ownership involves the servicing, the anticipated repairs, carrying costs like insurance and things like that. If you were to consider all 3 of our cars, which would be your pick?
Looks-wise or maintenance-wise?
Knowing the answer, looks-wise, which one would you absolutely never want to be seen in?
The 456.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if we were talking about true cost of ownership, though, which one do you think comes out on top?
456 for sure.
What?
No. How?
I also think it's the best driving car out of those 3.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Same engine family as
Have
this.
you
Yes.
have you never driven a 308 GTB, sir? Because that is a fine driving automobile.
Well, 20 or 30 years ago it was.
So we're talking about a car that requires timing belts, has 12 cylinders to maintain, relative to a 308 or a modern Ferrari 599. Why do you think it's cheaper to run?
The first time this car had a clutch was at 40,000 miles. And the reason why it had a clutch is because the throwout bearing went out.
Okay.
So your cost of ownership on your car with an F1 gearbox, boom. And what is that, every 10,000 miles?
I think they've improved it a bit.
You've got the best looking car, and you probably got the best hair out of you 3, so we'll give you that. You got the best looking car. I think you're gonna have the highest maintenance car out of that.
Just kick a guy when he's
I'll
down.
take that back. The 456 is a crazy reliable car. It really is. That's something you could drive every day. You're not gonna drive a 308 every day, and you're certainly not gonna drive that 599 every day without some issues. There's too much going on in that car.
That is a valid point. But what about the 308? How much do you think it would be with all the catastrophes that await?
Zero.
The guys that I know that drive their 308s, they're okay.
Okay.
But when they sit, it kills them, especially the carburetors, especially with the fuel we've got now.
So, but it would still be more than a 456?
Yes.
It's old.
So what? You can work on it with like a basic set of hand tools, and the parts cost like $5. Well, apparently not.
Well, we saw how that went for you. So we don't know exactly where we're headed from here, but AutoTempest will have some set of challenges to await. But as Ferrari drivers, what words of wisdom do you have for us?
Go fast and have fun.
Can do.
I can't do that.
Good luck, you guys. Thank you. And I'm betting on you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Armed with the wizard's warnings and the well wishes of our dear friend Dennis, it was time for us to move on. But there was only one thing on Tyler's mind, and it was the most cheap Ferrari thing possible. He wanted to find the nearest Olive Garden for a tour of Italy and a chance to beat his personal breadsticks record. AutoTempest, though, had other ideas.
All I do is win, no matter what.
I cannot fathom how that car would be cheaper to own than mine. And regardless, I'd just much rather have my car.
Tyler, you have an ugly Ford Probe. How does that feel? Huh?
We're not gonna Jedi choke anybody just yet. See, I got a text while we were in there, and it is from AutoTempest.
Yeah, of course.
Even though your cars are clearly far from perfect, at least ours are, you wouldn't be Ferrari owners if you didn't test the performance of your cars on a track. We've arranged one for you in the morning, so head to this address and see how your iconic supercars stack up.
Okay, I see you laughing, but mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, flat-plane crank V8, that is a supercar.
He's gonna be on fire. Or exploding.
Yes. I have 430 horsepower. You,
612.
goodness, you have maybe 100 left.
Yeah, but slow car fast versus fast car slow.
That's not how it's gonna go. Let's go have fun.
Are there any trees on this track?
No. Next time on Car Trip.
This looks like a fast track.
Get ready. Go! I am coming.
Woo! No!
I think everybody's childhood is covered here.
I should get the hot boy pose. Hashtag blessed.
And yes! Now that we've learned everything wrong with our cheap Ferraris, tomorrow we'll learn how trustworthy they are on the track. But one thing that we know we can trust is that AutoTempest is the best place to search for a used car. They compile all the results from all the major search options into one search. It makes it easier than ever, and it's the first place I go every morning.
And by you searching for cars on AutoTempest, clicking on the link in the description below, doing the fun act of shopping for cars makes Car Trek possible.
That's right, AutoTempest. All the cars, one search.